The inventory picture has been fascinating, Stacey. To your point, American Eagle, that write down, also saying that they've been giving discounts. How difficult is this environment for retailers to figure out how much they need to be stocking up, especially as what tariffs ultimately look like is still unknown?
It is hugely complicated to figure this out because if you think about it, as tariff fears were coming in, retailers were saying, "Okay, we should front load. Let's get stuff in before that happens, so we can get our maintain our margins at least for another few months before holiday." But then, of course, if you bring it in and it doesn't sell, or you have a fashion miss like American Eagle, you have a write down, you have too much inventory. And it's interesting because this really came at a time when inventories had been so clean for about 18 months. We were really at a point where you guys might have noticed when you're online looking for deals, there really haven't been as many deals over the last year, year and a half. So you've seen some spots, whether it's the Abercrombie brand, they've been promoting more to clear inventory when their brands really aren't hitting on all cylinders.
Is it your assumption then that it's going to be margin difficulty for the entirety of the industry, or is it just the likes of those of American Eagle that are having some issues with their strategy?
Well, I think again, it's there are definitely some winners that are still doing very well. But take Gap for example. They actually came out and said, our bottom line is going to be hurt by $100 million if the tariffs roll out the way we expect. So everybody's going to be under pressure, but you're seeing certain brands raise prices to offset it. And let's be honest, every year retailers do raise prices. You forget during COVID, prices went up significantly, whether it was Tapestry, that's Coach, or the luxury brands. And those guys are not promoting Ralph Lauren. They've gotten away with these price increases. They have not had to promote, and the consumer's still buying. So I think it's about what your product is. If it's in demand, you absolutely can get away with it and maintain your margins.
Stacey, over the weekend, the Treasury Secretary pushed back on this idea of what Walmart's saying and Best Buy's saying, and he said, well, look at what Home Depot and Amazon are saying. Is it a tale of two different tariff stories depending on what retailer you're at?
It is, and it also depends on where your stock is coming from. Are you heavy on China? Are you heavier Vietnam coming in? Are you local? A company like Bath and Body Works, they're local. They produce locally in the United States, so they don't have to deal with the majority of the chaos that's going on. So that's certainly a big swing factor.
The Treasury Secretary also talked about how he was reading the South China Morning Post, and they said that those factories are eating 65% of the tariffs, these Chinese producers. Is that accurate?
Well, what really happens, as we all know, is the consumer typically eats it. Or to some extent, the companies that have the power, like a Walmart, can certainly go back to their vendors and say, here are the terms. You're going to share the pain with us so that we don't have to push the whole thing onto consumers. So it's a little price increase to the consumer. It's pushing back on vendors. But the majority of it we will see, on this side, certainly.
Stacey, are there going to be no back to school sales? I've got to be honest, we've been kind of debating this idea of sales because we've all kind of seen anecdotal sales, and we're just wondering whether certain places can get sales and other places don't, whether there's certain types of products that are just not going to go on sales, or whether your pencils are going to cost $5 each. I mean, do you have a sense of, are there particular areas that are just really becoming immune to any kind of cost cuts whatsoever because the margins are just so slim it's going to be impossible?
Absolutely. And I think, if you see any promotions back to school, it's going to be in those fashion names that perhaps don't hit it right with the consumer. And that's where your opportunities will be. Certainly in consumer electronics, you're not going to see any deals this year going into holiday, or fewer deals. And of course, in footwear, we've seen a lot of volatility with Nike not doing well. Still, if you're out there and you're looking at apparel in the athletic space, the percentage of apparel on discount year over year, which we track at Nike and others, it's still way up. So there's still some deals to be had in the athletic space. But for basics, I think, like the last year, you're going to see slim pickings on the big discount side.